December 13th, 2017. This is a meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee. And tonight we're going to finish up with a couple of agencies. And then we're going to have a discussion on the warrant articles, the default budget, and the estimated revenues for the town. I guess as far as the agencies, is there someone here from Whitehorse? Come on up, please. Hi, if I could just get you to state your name, please.
Sue Thistle. I'm the Executive Director at Whitehorse Addiction Center.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. Whitehorse Addiction Center is a addiction treatment, prevention, and recovery center. We have about 19 staff now. Started out a year ago with 5, I think, so it's come a long way. We offer individual counseling, group counseling, intensive outpatient counseling. We have recovery coaches who are non-clinical, CRSW, Certified Recovery Support Workers. What else do we have? Let's see. Oh, we have industries. We have a thrift store. All of our, everything in the thrift store has been donated to us. And whatever we receive from that, we use towards non-billable items, non-billable services. We also just recently started a printing company for people in recovery. Our recovery folks that go through our programming often will either volunteer or work within the system.
Okay, I appreciate your folks' efforts. How many other communities have you gone to ask for money, for support?
I think you mean outside of the county?
Yeah, like I know Wolfeboro, Tuftonboro, and what other towns?
Wolfeboro, Tuftonboro, Effingham. I think that's it.
How did you happen just to select those 3 towns and not the entire?
That's all we had time for. It
What's
wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't something that we said, "Oh, we're going to pick this one, or this one." We decided to head out and do that when the county finally said you can go and do that, and it's just that we started and just have been so busy that we haven't really reached out to too many more. So.
Okay, I know. Last year, Carroll County, the delegation of the commissioners gave you folks $75,000.
Right.
And this year you're asking for $100,000?
We're asking.
Okay. Why should we as county residents or as taxpayers have to pay you twice for your services?
Okay, so the reason why people were calling us, asking us if we wanted to, if we would take their money. I had to say, no, I can't, because the county said I can't. So I called the county and I said, look, other people want to give us money. Trust me, $75,000 is not a lot of money when it comes to what we do. Last year alone, Medicare clients or clients that we were not able to bill for. One of the things that happens is we have clients that come in and we may start services with them and they never come back. We've helped about 42 people receive Medicaid funding, so to be less dependent on county services, anybody in the county. Some of these folks are going and getting money from churches or getting money from the town to stay in motels or whatever. So we've helped 42 just this year, get on to Medicaid so that they have insurance to cover their medical bills and you're not having to pay for that. So $30,000 we didn't get paid for this past year. That's a lot of money, and that's just for billable, non-billable services. Our recovery coaches, we don't get paid for their services. We can't bill for them, we don't get paid for them. So we have to look for that money elsewhere.
Okay, I guess what bothers me is, first, you're going to get $100,000 in the county, and you haven't applied to all these other towns. I just don't know why you would single out.
We don't have time. We haven't had time. We just found out at the end of the summer that we could do it. So, there's only so much time in the day to be able to do that, and most of our time is spent doing services.
I know in previous years, I've been on the committee for quite a few years, that the delegation or the commissioners frowned on I call it
Right.
double dipping, where the county would pay you a certain
Right.
amount of money, and then you'd come out and ask the towns
Right.
for money.
What
Has
I've
their
asked for
policy
is,
changed, or?
yeah, what they said was, and I might have brought a letter with me, what they said, as long as you ask for something different, which is what I was trying to say last year when I came here, that I had heard you could do that, but you guys said, go back and find out, and now I found out, and so I'm back. But we can't ask, they pay for services, so their money is used for those kind of services that we don't get paid for. What I'm asking in here is for building needs. So, in the other towns, Tufton Borough, I believe we asked for a vehicle for, because one of the things we do is the donations, a lot of times it's furniture. We had somebody working for us who was able to use his vehicle to go out and pick these up. He's hit or miss, and we have these donations that could come in and we can't get them. So, you know, a used vehicle, we ask for a small amount to do that. Our thrift store, the woman that works there, she doesn't, you know, she's using barbaric cash register and that sort of thing. So we asked for some funding for that from Tufton Borough.
Okay.
Wakefield was the other one. I knew there was another one. We asked for food and clothing and to get some folks trained to get food from the food bank because we give food away at the recovery center. We also give clothes away at the thrift store. So a lot of times we have clients that come in who, I mean, literally have the clothes on their back. One person last winter came in with no shoes. And for me to see that, I was like, oh my gosh, this
Right.
person, you know. So we're looking for other things besides service funds.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Yes, you said that you assisted 42 people last year. What
To
did
get
that-
Medicaid.
What, beg your pardon?
So we have a case manager, I didn't say that either, we have case managers. So we have folks that do psychotherapy, and then the case manager helps them get food, clothing, shelter, helps them with medical, dental, also helps them with transportation, all these other things. So one of the major things the case manager does is help people get Medicaid, because a lot of folks that come to us don't have any insurance whatsoever. So we help them sign up for Medicaid. A lot of times they don't know how to do that, and they need documentation. So we assist them in that process.
Okay, and in addition, included within that, you do have a program to get them off the drug problem.
Yes.
What does that entail?
We do psychotherapy with them. We do intensive outpatient, which is 9 hours a week a group and 1 hour of individual every week, as well as we ask that they go to recovery support meetings, get involved in the community. And within that programming is a lot of life skills, how to not crave drugs, how to, there's a million things, boundaries, assertiveness, all of these things that make people vulnerable to use. How to stay away from that first drink or drug.
Okay. What is your success rate? Is that possible to measure?
I would like to tell you that I know that number. I don't. I know that I can tell by the people that come there. We did have supplied the county with some letters from folks that did go through our program and that are very successful in life outside. A lot of our folks, if I were to give you a number, I can't give you an exact number because I don't know where people are, where they're going. I know that, you know, in the past we would say people who have, and I hate to give you these numbers, but this is prior to our major crisis that we have here in the country, but it used to be 10% of people with an opiate use disorder would recover. I think that number is higher now that we've, you know, put a spotlight on the problem and people are starting to stand up and recognize it. I don't know if any of you were aware of what happened with the big pharmaceuticals and the DEA. And if you're not aware of that, you should go online and Google DEA, big pharmaceuticals. They were supplying massive amounts of opiates to doctors and pharmacies way beyond what they could. So, you know, folks were getting hooked real early. Our system is overwhelmed. But I do think that it's gone up. The numbers have gone up. With straight alcoholism or alcohol use disorder, it used to be 30% would recover. Part of that is that, you know, we just have never put money into treatment. For some reason, money has never gone into treatment like it is now. We couldn't even cover it with insurance. That just happened a couple of years ago,
Okay.
probably 3 or 4 years ago. I
Thank you.
So,
I just got a couple of questions for you. I know the states, I believe the state of New Hampshire is suing some of the
yeah,
drug companies for that opioid issue.
yes.
You talked a little bit about your programs. I looked at your website, and there's a lot of reference to religion. Do I have to adopt your philosophy to graduate from that particular program?
Absolutely not. We do both Christian as well as secular counseling, so people can choose whichever they want.
Okay, so if I go to your classes or your treatment, I don't want to deal anything, I don't want to hear religious stuff, I can still
Right.
pass and things like that?
Yep. Yep.
Does anyone from a particular church teach at your school, or any particular philosophy that's directed to the patient, that's religious?
If they choose Christian, they can choose Christian. If they choose secular, they can choose secular, and we have both. So whichever one they choose, they can go to.
And do they have to go to a particular church as the pastor or
No,
the...
absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No. One of the church next door to us has AA meetings there. They also have what's called Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian-based 12-step program similar to AA, but they use the Bible and that sort of stuff. But AA is also offered there as well. And we have an AA program on site. We plan on having Smart Recovery and some other family programs there. The other thing that we do is go out into the community and educate folks and do trainings and that sort of thing. So we have a guy that comes to your Kingswood Youth Center. I've actually gone to Kingswood Youth Center and did some education with some of the youth there.
They mentioned that last night when they came.
Did they?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was somebody that just gave us money from your town, $100, the kids in the arts program. I was so excited to hear about that.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Thank you for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me see here. Senior Meal on Wheels? No. Annabelle, sorry. Annabella?
Yeah, we did that.
Good evening. Thank you for seeing me tonight because of the inclement weather with me coming up from New Durham. I appreciate it.
You want to tell us a little bit about your program?
Sure. The program's been going on at All Saints Church since 2008. We do meals now from August through the end of May, every Thursday at 5 p.m. And last year, we served 1,100 meals. 95% of our patrons are Wolfeboro residents. And the only other funding that we get is from the Hurwitz Trust. And I've also received a donation from the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, which is a federal program in the amount of $500. That's fairly new for us, in the second year recipient on that. We appreciate all the support that the town has given us in the past for this important program.
Any questions for Meals on Wheels? Oh, excuse me.
Annabelle.
Can't get Meals on Wheels out of my head for some reason. For Dinner Bell, I'm sorry. Any questions for Dinner Bell? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other agencies here tonight? Okay, let's start with the library. Their presentation, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Cindy Scott, the library director.
And I'm Ron Lamar from the Valley Brunswick Architects.
And we're presenting to you information on the Wolfeboro Public Library expansion and renovation project tonight. In 2004, we began the process of deciding how we wanted to improve the library, looking at what we could do to move into the future. One of the issues that we have in the library, there's basically two main issues, is the way the building functions. The library space was designed for a different time and a different population group, and it was designed before we had modern technology. So it's not functioning the way we need it to function, and probably the number one issue is noise. But we also have maximized the space, and we've well exceeded the design capacity that they put into place in 1979 when they opened the library. Go to the next picture.
Is that?
Yep. And people are looking for more social spaces, places where they can use the library's Wi-Fi to take online classes or run their home business. They want to be able to sit in the library for extended periods of time, and we actually have fewer spaces, seating spaces and desk spaces in the library than we had when we opened in 1979. In 1979, we had about 30,000 visits in the year. In 2002, which was the first year that I started working at the library, we had about 60,000 people visit the library. And over the last 5 years, we've averaged 90,000 visits annually. So the most important issues that we have to resolve are the noise issues, seating shortages, the limited public workspace and meeting areas. Staff workspace is very crammed, and we don't have much in the way of storage. So storage is under everybody's desks and piled up in front of doors and in aisles in the back offices. And we also feel that having a children's room in a wide open space near two exits is not the safest way to have a setup for our children. The second issue is the structure. We are having issues with codes. Some of you may want to look at these pictures of the roof that are up behind you here. The roof is leaking. We have a lot of rot on the clerestory. We experience water coming through the roof, and we have the stained ceiling tiles and moldy ceiling tiles to show it, and then sometimes we also have to put up strategically placed buckets to catch the water coming through the roof. We also are having problems with the snow load on the roof each year, so that I know that when this is one of the beams in the library which flexes, and when it gets down on the grill that you can see in that picture, I know I need to call Public Works and ask them to check the roof to see if we've exceeded our foot of snow. And I'm talking about heavy wet snow, not the light snow. Then we have to shovel the roof. There's also plumbing issues, there's electrical issues, and of course we have issues with the heating system. The building is worn out. It's 40 years old. A lot of the mechanical systems are also 40 years old. We have upgraded in various ways over the years to keep things going, but we are reaching the point where we need to do a major renovation to make the building safe, secure, and bring it up to code. Did you want to address some of the building issues, or are you going to do that
Sure.
right at the end?
So one of the things that we'd like to do with the library is obviously fix the roof. So you'll see that we have a solution for the roof. The other one is to address the mechanical and electrical systems that we just talked about. You pay right now about $1.30 a square foot to operate in terms of fuel and electricity for the library. And many of our libraries that have opened since bringing them up to code and bringing them up to sustainable energy efficiency guidelines and measures are operating at 78 cents a square foot. And so the structural issues alone, including the roof, when we talked to the community at large about this project, we learned very quickly that a pitched roof was preferred. So the way that we're going to fix the roof is not take the roof of the old library off, but build a pitched roof over it. So therefore, it's just a less expensive, more economical way of repairing that or taking care of it. At the same time, creating more space to fulfill the capacity needs, and that includes parking. So you'll see in a few minutes that we have a parking solution of 83 parking spaces, but it also makes the parking safer, and it also addresses all of the rainwater issues that are currently taking place on the site.
We have quite a wet site, and Public Works has had to do a number of repairs to the parking lot because of the frost heaves we get and the problems with drainage. And this plan will fully address the drainage issues and maintain the water on the site and not add to the town drainage system.
The indoor air quality, if you've had a chance to go into the library, and I should say actually the indoor environmental quality, because it's not only air, but it's light as well. The lighting itself, we can replace all of that with better lighting that gives you better illuminance in the library, as well as LED lighting, to reduce costs. And then bring in just the amount of fresh air that you need into the library.
We're also talking about putting in solar tubes, which will help us reduce the cost of lighting, as they will naturally light using the sun.
So the plan itself is designed to sort of have two phases, if you will. So the first phase will be to add on everything you see there in blue, which gives you a new front door, if you will. It also gives you a front door. I don't know if this has a pointer.
It doesn't really work.
Okay, so you'll see to the left of that on the blue, the front door sort of has an indoor porch. And that door gets you closer to the parking lot, so that the door that's currently used that goes into the back hallway would become more of an emergency egress for the children's room, so that everybody comes through the front door. What you'll notice also is that we're basically covering 50% of the exterior wall with new construction. So that allows us to insulate the building with new energy efficient envelope systems without having to take down those walls. And then the other walls that go around the rest of the library will be re-insulated from the inside. The idea is that phase one will build all of the blue. When the blue is completed, the library will move in and use all of the blue space as temporary library space, while the interior, all of the white space, is redone. You'll notice that a lot of the existing walls have been sort of removed and relocated. We have a structural engineer on the project who is basically making use of all of your existing structure. So we're not turning this into a structural engineering project. And the CM, we had a construction manager working with us in terms of the phasing. So again, it's a very simple way to address everything that's going on and give you much better space. For instance, you'll notice as you come in the front door, there's a hall with restrooms. You then are able to use the meeting room off to the left as you come in through the vestibule. That meeting room will be open to the community when the library is closed. So you would have access to the meeting room, the kitchen, and the restrooms when the rest of the library is closed.
Plus that secondary, smaller meeting room that's adjacent to the porch would also be available after hours. And we would only have to heat and air condition that part of the library. Right now, the whole library is either on or it is off. So with this new building, we'll be able to zone the different areas. And as we have very little insulation right now, which is not connected throughout the building, so essentially it's as if you don't have any insulation, this is going to be a much more energy efficient facility.
So essentially to the right, all of that is your adult library area. And then as you come in the front door, there's a circulation desk. Everything behind the circulation desk is staff area, which includes a help desk for technology and some sitting space, I should say, and display space. And then to the left, there's a glass wall that separates the adult library from the children's library, so that there's an acoustic separation between the children, as well as a secured barrier, if you will, with the glass wall. Meanwhile, everybody from the staff room can see the entire library and all aspects of the library at all times.
We're trying to be able to have only usage be the motivator in increasing library staff, and not the size of the building be a motivator in increasing library staff. So this has been designed in a way where we can still monitor everything by spreading the staff along the back wall to be able to monitor the entire building.
The idea is that it's also very flexible, so you'll see wide open spaces within the library, so that as the years continue, you'll be able to modify how the library is used without any major renovations or adaptations. At this point, are there any questions about the layout or the size of the building? We're adding approximately 5,000.
It's almost 6,000 square
Close to
feet.
6,000 square feet is what you see there in blue.
The first,
What percentage is that?
Was that?
What percentage increase is that?
about 50%.
50% increase?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the schedule, just quickly to talk a little bit about the phasing we just did, but the overall schedule is, if approved by the voters in March, we would design and develop and engineer the library and do all of the trade bidding with our construction manager through the summer of 2018 is when we would start construction. So sometime in August or September of 2018, we would start with the new addition. We would then complete that piece within 12 months. When the addition is done, the library would move from the existing library space into the new blue library space, which, as we said, it's about the same size. So they would move in there and use that space temporarily while the renovation would take place, and the renovation would take place for about 6 months. The idea also is that when we're doing the addition and putting the pitched roof on the addition, we would actually put the pitched roof across the entire building. So the library would close for, say, a week or two while all of the roof work is going on. And then we would have final completion basically in the beginning of 2020. So say January or February of 2020, we'd have a big ribbon cutting and a big party when the library opens. And the big key to this, and the way we've controlled some costs on this, is that the library remains open during construction, and it's phased in such a way that you don't have to rent space or move the library while all of this is taking place.
So essentially, this plan takes all of the complaints that we've had from the public, all of the issues that have come up over the years, and solves all of those issues with this plan.
So the idea is that this is a concept design, and we've had lots of community meetings, and once the vote passes, if the vote passes, we would then continue to modify the design, both inside and out, in terms of, because lots of people have come out, had really good comments, had good thoughts, and we would be implementing those as we go. We do have a guaranteed maximum price from Milestone Engineering and Construction, and they have sort of set the guaranteed maximum price based on the materials, the systems that we're proposing to use, so that essentially the town knows that we have that. There's also a contingency included within that guaranteed maximum price, as well as escalation costs. So understanding that this would go out to bid in this, like I said, August of 2018, there are escalation costs knowing that we put the price together last year and it's going to be built next year. In terms of the site themselves, Underwood Engineering has pretty much design the site so that instead of you having sort of two-way traffic right in front of the doorway, it becomes one-way traffic. We have a lot more parking right out in front of the door. As you can see, the little crosswalk there from the island to the main entrance.
It's about 30 more spaces.
Yep. Yep. And it separates the sort of in traffic from the out traffic.
And there's a drive-up book drop. Right now, people have to get out of their car. Quite often, they'll park in their driveway and leave their door open, and it's kind of a hazard and it's inconvenient. So there'll be a drive-up book drop that you can drop from the driver's side into. Also, we will be pulling the parking lot away from the abutters behind us. When they built the parking lot that we have now, we ended up causing wet basements on our neighbors. So one of the things this plan does is pull back a little bit and provide a space to help control the water on site. And also, instead of pushing the snow into the back part of the parking lot, it'll all go into that middle section in green, that green square there. We really have tried to think of every single item that anybody has identified to be resolved in this plan.
And I would like to thank a lot of the community members who actually came out to help us put this together. They were very helpful in terms of what their concerns were, what their issues were with the library, how would they like to see it used, and we tried to address everything. But as I said, if the vote passes, we would continue those meetings with the community to get everybody's input.
Cindy,
Yes.
that green space, doesn't that also act as a drainage runoff area?
Yes,
so
it
as not
does.
to,
It's going to help the water. There's clay layer not far under the surface, and so we're creating a method to be able to have the water have time to seep down through. We won't have any puddles anywhere, but we will still have the ability to control the water on site.
And one of your initial concerns was wetlands delineation. So this layout does not, I don't believe it interferes with the wetlands on that second piece of property at all.
All of the wetlands, there's one over by the edge of the road, there's one in the corner of the parking lot, and then there's one in the back toward the town garden. They're all man-made, originally wetlands, but they do help control the water in the neighborhood, so they're important. We are impinging on less than 3,000 square feet, so we've talked to Dan Coons about this, as well as over in the state, the DS, and besides getting some permits to move forward, there shouldn't be any issue. So this is going to be a huge improvement on the drainage issue on site.
I might be a little ahead of you on this, but I was wondering if you could touch on and just give us an overview of basic support structure of the building itself. I believe you spoke of columns that are actually will enforce the structure of the building.
The roof.
And the roof. And I believe you did say that the existing roof was going to stay in place.
Correct.
But, and not come down. So I don't know if you were planning on getting there, but perhaps you could just speak to that a little bit.
Okay. So what the plan is that all of the existing roof right now sort of spans across the entire library. That's why there's the deflection that you get. So we're going to build up above that. So where the beams sit on the wall right now, we're going to build up between the beams a bearing surface, and then across. So all of the bearing walls that exist in the library, we're going to keep them there, and we're going to keep the roof there. And then we're going to have, just on the inside of the library, some small columns that again go around the perimeter of the library. And that's going to hold up long span trusses, which are designed with today's codes, and the pitched roof. So that's all one structural truss. And because of the span across the entire library, those will be metal. So they're metal trusses. You'll also see that we have on the top side, I guess up the page, is some meeting rooms, some small rooms, all of the staff areas and so forth. And there would be a line of structure within those walls that also pick up that roof, so that all of your space in the middle of the library becomes open and column-free, so very flexible for the future. That also gives us the opportunity to literally leave your roof in place the way it is. Build up a little bit all the way around the library, and then span the whole roof. What that also does is it allows the roof to be a cold attic, if you will, so there's no concern about ice dams or anything like that.
Right. Didn't you also speak of a gutter collection system that will stop any water from
Yes.
racing up on the sidewalks?
Yep, so then we'll have a gutter system on the roof, and then downspouts that actually there's, and I'll go back to the site plan. That, you see the green space that goes all the way around the library? That would be a drainage plane, so as the water, if the water does come off the roof, it goes into that collection system, which again is piped, and it's piped to the underground systems that slow the water down so they can infiltrate into the ground.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. The other thing is the solar tubes. We mentioned the solar tubes a little while ago. The idea is that we'd have a line of solar tubes on both sides of the ridge for the roof, and those solar tubes will bring natural daylighting deep into the library. So we have lots of windows on the outside of the library, and then 2 lines of solar tubes that bring the light into the middle of the library. Again, the idea there is to have daylighting sensors in the library, which will automatically turn off the lighting when you don't need it during the day.
And how much do the solar tubes cost?
The solar tubes are about $1,500 to $1,800 installed, each one.
Each one?
Yep.
So, okay, so are you putting them on late in the game? You know, I'm wondering if, you know, when you get down towards budgeting, you know,
Actually, it's one of the naming opportunities in the foundation is the solar tubes, and we have received funding for the
okay.
solar tubes.
But it's a good point. So what we have in terms of the budget, like what's in, what's out, everything is in the budget. We realize that the library is continuing to do fundraising. But all of the things that talked about energy efficiency in terms of the solar tubes, insulating the walls, putting in the new HVAC systems and new electrical systems, all of that is within the budget. So there's no concerns about that not getting in there, because we sort of prioritize. So some of the things that, I guess I should say, all the nuts and bolts and parts and pieces of the building that need to go in there so that it's low-cost operations for the future are in the project itself. There may be a chair or so, you know, after the fact that they buy in terms of furniture, but, you know, as the fundraising goes along, they're able to get everything on the wish list, everything on the needs list is in the budget.
It was important to us to make sure we got the infrastructure right. That's the most important thing. Some of the furnishings, that can come later if it has to, even though it is included in the budget. But we want the building to work into the future, and that includes building in the ability to add future projects and just make it possible. If there's something we can't do right now, we can do it in the future because we've thought about it and we have the electrical setup to do it, even if we haven't been able to plug whatever it is we want to do in.
did you think about site visits from area schools? And can you get buses in and out of that lot? Is that lot designed to, or can it be designed as such?
I believe so. So we can check that with Underwood, but you'll see the turning radius at the top of the, sort of on the left-hand side of that island.
Okay.
When you talk about a school bus, I can check that with him. I'm just looking at that thinking it might work.
Well, I would think of field trips. Do you have that now? Do you have
Right.
kids being brought into the library for
We do
visitation?
get busloads of some groups of people at the library. We also have freight trucks come to the library, so it has to work for lots of different purposes, including we get a lot of people who are at the farmers market parking at the library.
Have you considered or are considering any type of egress out onto Goodrich, like another way out if you needed it? Is that
Goodrich,
possible?
that's the street in behind.
Right, behind,
Yep.
right.
Well, what we want to do in the future, this is not part of the current project, is to connect with a path to the town garden. So people could park in our parking lot and walk over there or ride a bike, or, I mean, it's another way to get to the town garden without necessarily having to go down.
You know, I was thinking of a gated entrance or something where you can get cars out of there if you had to in the back way.
Like a second vehicle, a
If you have
vehicular-
an accident out
We
front.
weren't intending to have cars be able to go there, in part because of that large wetland
Right.
in the back of the property.
One opportunity we do have is we do know that the safety building is
Okay.
right next door.
Yeah, you could, okay.
And so as that project is studied and so forth, there could easily be sort of a gate, if you will, like you're suggesting. So if, in case you needed a second means of vehicular exit or access, you'd be able to get out that way. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So,
with the budget committee, we should talk money, right?
yeah, that's right. So basically, the project is $5 million. It's actually a tiny bit below $5 million, but it's easier just to say $5 million. It's going to be offset by some funds from the Wolfeboro Public Library Foundation. Right now, they're at $1.2 million. They are not done raising money. I'm sure at a little later in the process, especially at the deliberative session, we'll have sort of the final figure for what that they have raised. We also have some funds in the trustees' holdings, right now about $123,000. And the capital reserve fund has about $22,000. So right now, we're looking at an estimated taxpayer portion of $3,655,000. Now, we'll continue to be working on raising money. I can't give you what that figure is going to be yet, and certainly I'd be happy to give updates as we get moving into the beginning of next year. But people are working very hard on this, and I think they've actually done very well to get 1.2 million. So, and a lot of that, probably around 900,000, is pledges. So, any specific questions about the project?
Do you have an idea what the debt service will be on that, as far as like the bond issue, what that's it?
Based
That's
on,
our cost of like $3.6 million.
yeah, so
What's the fee of doing that, financing that? Any idea?
I guess, Pete, I mean, we had talked about $1 million. If they raised $1 million, it was going to be 16 cents per thousand, but I'm not,
You can see that in the estimated tax rate information on the warrant article. In 2020, the third year, the bond issue would kick in, and then it's 16 cents per thousand.
It still doesn't tell me what the final figure is. Like, I mean, if that costs $3.6, what's our debt service going to be when it's paid off? Is I'm wondering.
You have the debt service schedule?
Just curious what the final figure is, because I mean, 3.6 looks pretty good, but if you're going to add another million to it for financing, I mean, that's a different figure.
well, we've been working very hard to come in with a reasonable project. Our first run-through was about $8 million, so we feel like we've worked hard to get it down to the bare minimum of what we need that's going to solve all the problems.
Do you think that that pitch on that roof will be good for you, right, as far as the snow load?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Are you gonna
That's-
have solar panels on both sides or just one side? Or is that something you might do or you might not do?
Solar is definitely going to come in our future. It's not part of the $5 million, but we have had somebody who's interested in helping to fund that. There are a number of things we are working on negotiating at this
Doing
point.
the first things first.
And I don't
But
think
the
it's
main
big,
thing is to
right?
get the basic structure, knowing that we're going to do solar, so that we, as I said before, build ahead for the possibility.
I have a question on the people that are coming into the library. Seems like you have a lot of folks here tonight. I'm wondering, what's your experience with, say, the 20 to 40 age category? Are you still getting those categories, or is it, say, 50 and up category?
I think let me just mention that nationally, there's a trend that millennials, which are sort of the 20s and 30s, are the most heavy library users, and they're generally using the library more than older people nationally. For us, that's not really the case, though we are getting some of the millennials. We primarily are seeing the very young with their parents. We've had an increase in the number of young families that are in town, and they're coming to the story time sessions, especially the toddler time, in new levels that we haven't seen as long as I've been here, and also the kids' circulation is going up. But of course, one of our main population groups is the older population in town, and that is a large part of the usage. But we are also seeing people who have home-based businesses who are coming to the library to get out of their homes and to be around other people. More people are asking for our time and attention with the kinds of questions that they're asking, especially technology-related questions. People answer the easy questions themselves online, though they don't always trust the information that they're finding. So a lot of times they'll come to the library for information to make sure that what they're finding is accurate, and also for the questions that they're having trouble answering themselves. So the library continues to be a very busy place, but used not so much traditionally, but more and more in new ways involving spending extended periods of time in the library, using the Wi-Fi, sitting, drinking coffee, reading newspapers. So we delayed this project for a while because we were studying the statistics, and it wasn't that we were getting quieter, it was that there was a shift from some of the more traditional services to some new kinds of services, especially programming, special events, and especially things for children.
And that's why it's so important that Cindy was adamant about having open, flexible, sort of adaptable space within the library, because, and even the American Library Association has said that from community, city to town, and other cities, libraries are being used completely differently, and it's only a matter of time before those ways in which they're being used come to your town.
A lot of the trends we noted personally, then we start to see articles about them in some of the magazines, American Library Journal, and things like that. So
The contribution, 1.2, that's very, very good. Do you see that still increasing in like 2018, 2019, or will that stop when this gets?
We're going to continue to, the foundation is going to continue to raise funds. They're doing it right now, talking to different people. They're continuing to pursue different options. And if the warrant article passes, we also have been looking into grants. Most of the grants we've been looking at require that it be an approved project before we apply. But a couple of members of the foundation have done some research into potential grants that they will start pursuing if the warrant article passes.
I've got the number you wanted. It's estimated on a $3.8 million project is, on a 20-year note, is $1,222,908.
Thanks, Pete.
That is, I think, is 3.04% estimated bonding rate.
And obviously, we're still hoping to get that taxpayer portion reduced as we move forward.
Is that, if that happens, how does that, mechanically, how do we reduce the cost of that?
We're not going to bond any more than necessary. We're going to wait until the project's complete, basically, to vote the bond issue, and by that time we'll know how much they have raised and what size bond we need.
So in other words, all the work that we're doing, we'll wait until we actually have the bids in hand in order to put those final numbers together. But I think the 3 point is a conservative estimate, right?
That's according to bond act.
Yeah. So even the interest rate could be a little lower at the time of the sale of the bond.
Everything's kind of a moving target, but we have a general sense of where we are.
If you're increasing the size of the library by 50%, does that mean in years to come it will be increasing the staff as well?
The only staff that we're proposing right at this time is a part-time custodian, and that will be covered by the money that we're spending now for a service, cleaning service. And as I said before, we want usage to be the reason that we increase the staff, not the building size. So that's part of this design, built into this design. And usually, though, libraries, when they expand, people come to see what's going on, and quite often they continue to visit the facility. So usage may increase, and then, of course, at that point in time, we would probably be coming forward, a few years down the line, requesting probably part-time help.
Do you have order of magnitude of the grants that could be available, assuming it all goes well?
I don't have a figure for that. That's pretty much something that the foundation has been working on, and that person is not here tonight. It's just, we're optimistic about some things to do with energy and some things to do with technology that we've seen some grants. I'm sure there are some other grants as well that we can potentially apply for.
Question, John?
Go ahead, John.
You plan to, assuming that this is going to pass in March, you're going to start right away with getting the design finished. Where's the money coming from that?
So money. Go ahead.
It's from, according to my conversations with Cindy, it's from money that already is in the custody of the library trustees,
The
correct?
trustees have some money, and also we can apply for grants from the Library Foundation to get us going.
Then the rest will be done, we'll do bond anticipation notes starting in 19, early 19, to get us through. Those will be, the cost of those will be included in 2019 budget and debt service. Bond anticipation notes. They're
Okay, so
usually
you-
1.5%, 2%.
You don't anticipate doing any construction in 2018, is that correct?
Starting at the end of 2018, we would start construction.
And the money is going to come from what money you have in the trustees and all of that?
That's the current plan, yes.
And then in 2019, it goes full bore, is that right? And that's when you're going to have bond or whatever.
Anticipation notes.
Bond
yes.
anticipation notes, yeah. We won't bond until the project's done.
Okay,
You know, we'll fund, if it goes into 20, we'll still have bond anticipation notes in 20. And then at the end, when we know exactly how much money we need, we'll do it then.
that bond anticipation note is 3.02%.
No, it's more or less than 2 the last time.
Beg your pardon?
Less than 2 the last time. They're pretty cheap for
Okay, thank you.
municipalities, pretty cheap borrowing.
They're short-term notes.
Yeah, so.
Thank
I
you.
mean, not to cloud the waters or anything, but I suppose if the circumstances in the bond market changed in the middle, I suppose you could bond half of it or something like that in the middle. But you'd want to wait until that time to see what the bond bank thought. You might be able to save some money doing that. That's also a possibility.
Thank you. I'm interested in
Anything else, Cindy?
No? Any other questions? That's it?
Everyone else have any questions? Thank you very much for
Okay.
coming in, appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, if anybody would like a tour to really see what's going on at the library, I'd be happy to do it anytime. Just let me
Great.
know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next article we're going to do is the construction of Westwood Drive, subject to betterment assessment.
Better every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
Go back.
Don't want to play doctor. I haven't talked to the doctor. But we're going to be careful. I think he's getting better every day. I don't have any specifics. He's getting better.
Probably got some broken bones, huh?
Compound your leg. I know that. It's cold. That's what he got hit.
No, a couple of years ago,
Great.
they did one on 28, they folded. It never happened. I said, what's this for? This is taking over a road. A lot of times they won't, they get down to it, they won't pay the money. You can't get paid off board. To the tune of, something like, and they don't need 3 years. Okay? We need more than a handful of people to do it.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, what would you like to talk to us about, tell us about the construction of Westwood Drive, subject to a betterment assessment?
Certainly. I've been working with residents out there, specifically Joe Morello, who's here tonight. He's worked hard over probably a couple of years trying to get a situation, an unfortunate situation, with a private road, Westwood Shores, Westwood Drive, that seems to have been built properly, but the pavement was not done, and over a 20 or 30 year period has gone to in pretty bad shape. They were looking, how do we become a town road and be able to, so I worked with them under the concept of the betterment assessment. So what we're looking at tonight is a bond that would cover the full cost of the design, permitting, and construction of Westwood Drive to bring it up to a town standard. That cost would be borne by the properties that are going to receive the betterment from it. The RSAs allow for this conditional approval with the betterment assessment. So it's I believe, a 20...
10-year.
Excuse me, this is over a 10-year period. So each of the lots would pay one share of it each year over a 10-year period, similar to what we did at Stonehenge a few years ago.
We tried this with another property on 28, it failed, they wouldn't take it, right? Everybody has to be on board with this, right? It can't be all the property owners.
Well, that was a little more complicated. You're talking about Winnipesaukee Drive, and that involved a lawsuit and a developer going bankrupt, and it was a little bit more complicated. So while many of them wanted to go forward with it, the one person who had a lot of say, because it was a lawsuit, and
He owned 26 lots.
well, yeah, so it was more complicated. So, but they decided not to come forward with it. So we never voted on it. They decided not to bring it forward. This one here, Joe has worked with all the people, and I think he has almost, if not 100%, 95%? 90%. And the people who did not support it did not come and speak against it. Because we had public hearings at the selectmen's meetings, and no one spoke against it.
How long is the Westward Road, like how many miles does that add to the town?
I believe it's about 3,400 feet. Do you have the spreadsheet there with the cost estimate?
Yeah, 3,850.
And that's and if you look, there's a map that goes along with it. So we're just looking at the loop road. We are not looking at Tennis Court Drive, which is a dead end that goes and crosses the Cotton Valley Path and accesses only 2 lots. That's not included in this, or not included in the petition. I should say also that the property owners did petition the selectmen, so the process was started by the property owners with a petition for the conditional acceptance and betterment.
Dave? 2 lots you speak of on Tennis Court Lane, are those the 2 lots on the other side of the railroad right-of-way?
Technically, there's only 1 lot across that's at a house on it. The other lot is a common lot.
Okay.
But there's one house, lot 16, has its driveway on Tennis Court Lane. But both
Okay.
of those lots will pay a betterment assessment.
Okay. And the other question I have is, our most recent experience with this, I believe, is Stonehenge Drive or Stonehenge Lane.
Yes.
Are we having any issues with that? Any problems?
None that I'm aware of. I think everyone, the one thing that happened there is what we're doing is the cost to design, permit, and build. It does not include the finance charge or the interest cost. And that's one thing I did try to do a better job explaining, because the bond payment, is split between all the lot owners, but they also have to pay the interest.
Right.
So this becomes a situation where there's no cost to the taxpayers to bring it up to town standards. Obviously, from once it's brought up, then the town's going to maintain it from then on, and then we'll be.
Okay.
And the question was, we're about 68 miles of road now, so this will add another little more than half mile.
Do you have any idea as far as cost, like once the town takes it over, is it a nominal kind of, do you have any kind of an idea as far as like so many feet costs so much in your budget, basically?
Well, that's a very good question, and it's been asked, and we are working on trying to get metrics to break that down so I can give you a better answer. What I can tell you that because it's a loop road, it's going to be easier to plow. Our biggest cost is under snow emergencies when we have to plow the roads. It'll be a loop road, so we'll pass in, pass out, versus if, for instance, there was some discussion about taking Tennis Court Lane. Well, that little stretch of Tennis Court Lane would probably take us more time and cost more to maintain 300 feet than 3,000 feet, because it's a dead end. So this is from a maintenance perspective. The other thing, we're also making sure we're replacing all the culverts, so that's another cost. After 20 years, still culverts start to rust. So this does include replacing all the culverts. They have one major culvert that's going to require a wetland permit. So by doing the proper capital, I see, except for the snow emergency stuff, I don't see a lot of maintenance there. So I don't think it's going to be huge, but again, each year as we add more roads, at some point there'll become a point, and I think we're working closely, so hopefully within a year or so, we're going to be able to break these costs down so I can give you a better answer specifically when we do that. And that should be something too. I've heard other communities, property owners, what would I do to make a town road? Well, it's got to be to the betterment of everyone. So if someone has a road that's 3,000 and there's only one house on it, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. This one is fully built out. It's going to be easy to maintain when it is brought up to standards, and they're going to take the full cost of it to bring it to that point.
So when you look at this, it'll be very well done when you accept that.
Correct.
And we won't have issues like we have in some of the other parts of town where 10 years, we got some kind of drainage issue.
Exactly.
Or erosion issue or some other.
Or tree issues. We're going to cut trees, we're going to clear the right-of-way, we're going to do everything we can so that it'll never be maintenance-free, but we won't have any major issues for at least, say, 15 years.
So this 1284, that's what each property owner pays for 10 years each year?
That is subject, one of the other things too is I had to come in high, so this does include a contingency, and some of the estimates are a little bit high because we don't know. So when we bond, this will be a not to exceed number, and this is an estimate based on using all the contingency. It also includes the legal administration cost, and it did assume an interest rate, and of course there are some assumptions in there, but hopefully it'll be less.
So if it's less, then they get rebate, they don't have to pay as much towards the end of the
It'll
10-year
be,
time frame.
whatever the actual costs are, and we will sit down with finance, and then at the end, they'll be responsible for that amount. But it should not be any more than this. This is what should be a worst-case scenario. And they were all made aware of that, so this was given to all the property owners, so they know what they're... And it's a significant cost. That's
We know that, we don't know, we do know that the road was done right in the first place. In plain English, when they created that development, they didn't backfill over stumps. We don't know the answer to that. Because that's going to create a problem if that happened, I'm assuming.
Well, that's a very good question, and I've been on the road more than once, and I've looked at it, and I've talked to the property owners. From what I can see, it does not have any of the problems that we saw at Winnipesaukee Drive, which is what drove that project much higher. The base of the road looks good, the ditches look good, the road is raised up, the drainage is actually not that bad, again, except for the age of the pipes. So in my opinion, I think it doesn't have any skeletons in the closet, per se.
All set? Okay, let's move on to stormwater collection system asset management plan.
As you've been aware that the town is committed to asset management. When I was hired, the selectmen were adamant that we begin looking at our roads, and we have made headway slowly, but I think we are always going forward. We have received grants from New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for doing water systems. We received over $30,000 to do our water system. $30,000 last year we got for the sewer system. It's very similar. It was a SRF loan that they forgave. And this year they have a program which they want giving money for stormwater. And what we're proposing, again, is a $30,000 loan, a state revolving loan that once the project is completed, they will forgive 100%. So this is basically a grant. And what it entails is us mapping each of our stormwater catch basins, doing a condition assessment of it, determining its useful life and where it is on that cycle, and then preparing a long-term plan for its either repair or replacement. This is a very big project, and it's in line with what we've been trying to do with our other utilities and infrastructure. This also works very closely with what we're trying to do with our lakes and cleaning up stormwater. We have a lot of our roads, we have to deal with harsh winters here, so we do a lot of sanding and salting. A lot of our storm drainage systems carry the water to the lakes. And over the years, like I say, we've been made more aware of the issues. The lake is our golden goose, and we need to protect it with all our might. So I think this is a major step in the right direction. And again, it's just one piece of a bigger pie of all the asset management work we're doing.
Any questions? Okay, move on. Let's skip the operating budget. We're not there yet. And let's go to town road upgrades.
Every year, this is, I guess, my favorite project, and I would say it's a favorite project for the voters. We normally receive over 80% approval, which is extremely high. Each year, we've been trying to raise this to meet the problems we have. We have, again, over 68 miles of road, and if you live on a road that was recently paved, you're on a very nice section. But if you're on a road that's waiting to be paved, you have a bumpy ride home. And if people on Spruce Road now can tell you they suffered for many years with a very poorly degraded road, and now we fixed that up this summer. And Keewaydin Road is a road they've been complaining about. The Board of Selectmen had heard from more than one person about the complaint. So we're working on our worst roads this year. What our plan is for rebuilding of Keewaydin Road, rebuilding a section of College Road, which would be the third piece. We've done 2 other pieces over the last 10 years. So this would be the piece from Route 28 to the fire pond out by Westwood Drive, Track Road, and those are our 3 major projects. Mont Hill Road is a short road that's one of those that became a town road, so we're responsible for it. It's only a little over 600 feet, but it's in awful condition. If you're ever going up to the inn that's up there, the bed and breakfast, or the farm, it's at a point where even though there's not a lot of people served by it, we have to do something this year or we're going to lose it. So it's a pretty significant problem for us, and we are planning on doing that one. We've also added the Railroad Avenue extension to the road project. I had proposed as a separate one, but the selectmen had decided we're going to lay out that road, and that's a section of road that people might think it's a town road, but it's not. It extends from the boat ramp that's just beyond the railroad station, and extends past the railroad freight house and the condominium association, and then connects with our parking lot that's by the water skier. That section of road is about a little over 300 feet, and what we're planning on doing is putting in proper drainage and working with the condo association, making sure that all drains properly, so that we can construct a town road there, pave it. Right now, it's a gravel road, and it's kind of a funny section there. Now that we've purchased the property with the freight house, and we have another section that's owned by the Bean family, and we've been in contact with them, and they're willing to give us a right-of-way across that parcel, which is right by Bean Park. So we see this as a good project, a good extension of what we've been trying to do downtown in terms of improvements. We see these improvements now connecting the railroad station, Railroad Ave, out towards our new London Street parking lot.
You mentioned the Railroad Avenue extension. Is that at all tied up in the lickety-clack with the New Hampshire Railroad Museum plan at all in terms of?
Well, it's very close, and right adjacent to it, and we have been in contact with the people supporting that project. It is not connected to it, so if that project goes or doesn't go, this project will stand alone, and I think we all can agree it's necessary. We will solve the drainage problems, and we'll make plans for the rebuilding of that project. So we'll be coordinated, but it's not dependent on it.
Thank you.
Another question. Something this fall in the paper about a grant from the state.
Okay.
And the word I heard was North Wolfeboro, but I don't see it in this.
Correct. So we were awarded the state $153,000. So they had some extra money at the end of the year, and they divvied it up to the towns based on the equation that each year we get this road block grant money. So we were extended that money, but the criteria was that we had to commit it by the end of the year. So we looked again at North Wolfeboro Road, which is again probably one of the worst roads we have in town. You've heard it, so you know. Yes, and so we're committed to that project. We've already got a contract set up and a rebuilding. The money will not complete the road. It'll get the basis, the bones done. We're going to do better drainage, under drains, add some gravel. It'll get about 3,500 feet up there, so we won't get all the way. And then we'll, in 2019, we will come for the remainder of the road, which is not as bad, and then overlay the whole road. So it'll be a 2-year project. That is not here because it's already been authorized via the state and so.
Any other questions?
Yes, one more thing. When at the deliberative session, does the worksheet go to the public? This will be be part of the handout, the folks at the
Well, we
deliberative
make a
session?
presentation, and I think we have a
Will be?
PowerPoint, and that all goes with the handout, I believe.
Well, then this thing should be cleaned up a little bit because the project request says 800,000, doesn't say 870.
Okay, so you have to look on it. Yes, that's what we
Okay,
want
so,
to-
and also, the department priority is listed as necessary, and then under rationale, urgent need is checked off, and so that's
Something we gotta, you know,
kind of, yeah, that's all.
yeah, I'll be preparing those, once we settle with how the warrant articles are, we start working on the presentations for, town meeting, and we get that out to you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yep.
Has that railroad extension, has that always been part of the county?
It's what?
Has that little section that goes around, has that always been a town road? It's just always been dirt?
It's a private way. The selectmen are going to lay it out as a public way, as a town way, and then it will be, this work will be done to it.
Okay,
It will be paved.
okay. I just didn't know if any of the condominium people on that would share with that cost, or did we just not? Because that was just a private road before, and then they put the condominiums there, and I didn't know if there's any shared cost, or we're just going to take it.
Well, they're very supportive of the project, I
I'm
believe.
sure they would be. Just curious.
Okay, anybody else? David, what about the 390 line? Are you going to do that, or?
Oh, the 390 line?
Yeah. 390.
I can discuss it if you wish.
If you'd like to, yeah, we can have the director of, yeah, Barry come in. Just have Barry come tomorrow.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the next one will be existing expansion docks engineering.
What was that, John?
Dockside docks.
Docks engineering and the expansion of those docks.
All right.
Backside docks.
So, this is a interesting project, and probably what I consider part of valuable real estate the town owns. I consider it our front lawn, where a lot of our people come. First place they land either by boat or by bus, even driving in, is the dockside area. We've been working with the Board of Selectmen in subcommittees. We've also, this past year, part of our asset management, we looked and did a detailed study of our docks, and including the wharfs and the seawalls that surround the whole area. We found that we have, and not surprising, that was built probably, parts of it over 100 years old. The docks themselves, I think, were constructed in 1999, so that makes them 17 years old. Similarly, we're looking at their condition, where they are at the end of their useful life, and whether we would repair or replace. We did find out some things that were maybe a little surprising. Some of the docks need some emergency repairs, and some of them need major repairs, but not emergency, not right away. Second, the subcommittee for the selectmen had a dock committee, and we talked about the need to expand the docks, because in the summer months, if anyone's been down there during a busy period, we see many boats hovering, and they can't get a parking place, so they can't come in to enjoy Wolfeboro. We have had discussions, and the committee has worked with a consultant, Jim Rhines of White Mountain, and talking to the state. And while we thought maybe we could never get any more docks, we are glad to hear that that we can expand the docks, but it's going to take some engineering. So what this article is about is to work those two projects as one, to design and permit both the repair and the rebuild strategy, as well as the dock expansion, and make sure those two projects are coordinated, so that we don't go ahead and do one thing and then all of a sudden 5 years later have to rip it out. So it makes a lot of sense, and we put it together as one article. And this is separate from the reserve fund, so this does include the emergency repairs also. So this also includes money for the emergency repairs. I apologize because I thought I had everything set up here because I was away today at a funeral, so when I got back, I picked up my book. I don't have everything here, but basically we're looking at emergency repairs of $40,000, and then the engineering and permitting for the to rebuild the existing docks is about $50,000, and then for the engineering and permitting of the dock expansions is estimated $25,000. Those are conservative estimates. We hope to do it less than that, but I do believe this is a potential. We might open the door and find Pandora's box, so I want to make sure we had enough to make sure we could do it properly. We did have a diver go in underwater to do the inspections, and a lot of things were identified, and we're going to be looking at the repair strategy, the rebuild strategy there, so make sure we can do that as effectively. We'd be looking at the expansion potentially in 2019, and depending on the engineer's recommendation, how fast we go with the repairs, that could also be in 19 or 20.
Are you gonna do, with your repair, those docks are all wood and a lot of docks are wood. Are we gonna transition to aluminum or something like that? And the reason I ask that question is if you look around the lake, a lot of your docks now are becoming aluminum because they are lighter, stronger, and more long-lasting than wood. Is that in your thinking at all?
That's one of the reasons why I'll be honest with you, I'm very weak when it comes to the waterfront. That's not my area of expertise, so I depend heavily on the consultants. We feel we have two companies working for us who are very good at that. That's the type of stuff we're going to look at when we look at this as an asset now. The facility we have now has lasted a long time, but it has some problems. So we've got to be looking at materials of construction. But also, we like to see, as being Yankees, if we don't have to replace something, we can get another 5 or 10 years. We're all for there. So the emergency repairs will be done probably in wood because we had some steel cross bracing that kind of rust out. So we got to look at the elements. Father Time and Mother Nature always is our big issue with the icing and just the corrosion and the wear and tear. So we're going to look at those issues, and I think that's a good thing that I hadn't thought about, but I will make sure it gets looked at.
When they get to the dock, when they get to the expansion, is the dock committee advised any kind of having those, the docks be wider in between? Because the boats that are coming in there, you got one large boat here, and one here, and then nobody can get down in closer. So it restricts the number of boats. Because we got lots of dock space, but when you look at it, it's half empty because somebody parks out the end and no one can get in. So
well, I think that's a very good question. I think one of the things the document is looking at, and that might be something we'll look at in the future, is actually how we manage it. Because again, if we had a harbor master, we could manage the dock space. We probably could, with bigger boats maybe being parked on one side and the smaller boats be able to get into those. But we're not. Your question is, we're not planning on reconfiguring the docks, which would mean we'd have to replace all the pilings. We're going to try to work what we have. We'll try to manage it better.
I got a question for you, David. I'm a voter. I see two different things here. I see one part of the money going to rebuild the docks, to fix the stuff that's wrong.
Correct.
And then I see another section that says, expansion, so now we're going to make more docks.
Correct.
And I don't want the expansion. How am I supposed to vote? I agree that it should be fixed, but I don't want the expansion. That's why I personally think it should be two separate things. So I'm more apt to vote and say no, because I don't want the expansion. And I guess I'm trying to figure out why it's not two separate entities.
Well, I don't think I can answer that question. I think it was a Board of Selectmen decision, so I don't know. We can check with the Board of Selectmen what the thinking was there.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Town Manager?
Again, that was a strategic decision made by the Board of Selectmen to put it all together as one proposal.
Right, but again, I could be a voter that says, I want to get stuff fixed, but I don't want the docks to get any bigger. I have no option.
And even under that, I could justify that because we're not voting to expand, we're just getting the permitting and engineering done. So for people who might want to question the need for the expansion, and I think the subcommittee of Board of Selectmen, I think there's a very strong need, and we did have a public meeting which we found almost 100% support of the expansion. That being said, though, you're right, some people may want to separate it. We think it's good practice to put the two together, the repair and the expansion, so they're coordinated, so that in the future, I believe the votes will be separate. So when we look at the cost to repair the docks and then the cost to expand the docks, then I think it would be more, okay, that's when you can vote, we don't want expansion, we just want to repair what we have.
Yeah.
But the engineering going together kind of makes sense, and obviously the emergency repairs have to be done because we don't want to have warnings out there saying it's not safe. That we had to do that at the end of the year, which we found out some of the docks were not safe.
So the engineering is going to cost 50,000, is that right?
That was my estimate, yes.
Do they have people, do you have, is it someone that, who would do that for you?
The company that did the asset management plan was Ty and Bond. They have a specialist, a marine division, who does specifically this engineering. And then we also have White Mountain Survey, who does a lot of permitting of dock expansions. And so we think between the two, we have a good team to look at that. We have not awarded any contracts, so we have proposals in terms of what needs to be done. So again, these are estimates based on that, but we haven't made any selections at this point. But those are the two we're looking at.
David, if I read this right, and I'm uneducated, you're going to have to educate me. It looks to me like $90,000 is tied up in the repair of the docks and the retaining walls. Am I reading this right? And the $25,000 at the end, number 3, project number 3, that's the engineering and permit for the expansion? Am I reading it right?
That's correct.
So what we're talking about in terms of a repair, if you will, retaining walls and the existing problems with the docks is 90 grand.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, John? Yes, sir. When it comes in CIP, there are 3 categories of projects. One is urgent, the second one down is necessary, and the third one down is desirable. So here, project number 1, where it says make emergency repairs to, what's TMB? I don't even know what that is.
Ty and Bond, that's the engineer's report.
Okay. So emergency repair, that's urgent. Second one down, engineer and permit repairs that are not quite as urgent, that's a necessary repair. If you bring 50 people out on a dock and they look and you show them the dock and they'll say, almost all 50 people will say, yeah, that needs to be fixed. Okay, the third one down, engineer and permit dock expansion. I think that would come under a desirable project. It would not be necessary or urgent. If you take the same 50 people down to the dock and say, how would you like to expand these 5 middle docks out 60 feet? You might get 25 people say yes and 25 people say no. But you'll probably get nowhere near 50 people say, yeah, we should push those docks out. That's not going to happen. So you're absolutely right. These 3 projects should not be in one warrant article. I do have a question about the engineering permit dock expansion. Will that include an environmental review?
All wetland permits, technically that's what they're doing is environmental review. It also will include dredging, because I don't think you realize the Smith River carries silt with it and it deposits there. Last year when the lake was low, we had problems with the mount bottoming out. So we do need to do maintenance. So we'll be looking at dredging as well as all environmental concerns with regards to the permitting.
Okay, now, I was recently in touch with the director of the Winnipesaukee Watershed Association at Tarpey, and first question she asked me was, is there going to be an environmental review on this project? She did tell me that she was going to contact the state about it also. Now, you've been very active as far as water quality, water clarity. The lake is the golden goose, which you said a couple of projects ago. So I think it's very important that whether this is split out or kept together, that there has to be environmental review. I also spoke with the director of the Wentworth Watershed Association, Ann Blodgett, and she was very interested in this also. Now, you spoke of the public hearing where you said the majority of people wanted this thing.
That was my understanding, yes.
The overwhelming majority of the people who spoke at that public hearing were businessmen from town, business owners, workers, or affiliated with the Economic Development Committee and/or the, what's the other agency? Mary DeVries is in charge of the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so I don't think there was a broad spectrum of people, taxpayers, town folk, who were at this hearing. It was pretty much loaded up with business people. So I'm not buying that it's a legit finding. Now, if this warrant article was not successful, I see another warrant article further down. It says Dockside Docks Capital Reserve Fund, and it's for the purpose of repairing and expanding the Dockside docks. So if this article goes down and the other one succeeds, that provides, in my mind, that provides the money to do the emergency repairs. Am I correct in that?
That is intended to be like a savings account to start building up towards the cost of doing all of this work.
Okay, but it says Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of repairing and expanding the Dockside docks. So if this Dockside dock cost estimate goes down, and the other one succeeds, you got money to repair your docks. That's the way I'm reading this.
The first one is to do the engineering and permitting.
And emergency repairs.
Right, and the emergency repairs. So the second one is to do the longer-term improvements that are going to be needed down there.
Okay, longer term or short term, if you don't have the money to do the emergency repairs. Right, that's really what I want to know. I mean, you have it, that's what it says, repairing.
But that's for again, we talk about three particular projects: the emergency repairs, which
Right.
is short money; the long-term repairs, which is big money. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is why the selectmen, I think, decided to start putting some money aside. And the dock expansion is maybe not as expensive as the dock repairs, but still significant.
I'm also interested, it seemed that we spent a lot of time and went to a great effort to remove the word emergency from all of this paperwork at the capital improvements. I think we were leaning towards the word imminent, and now all of a sudden I see in the warrant article, making emergency repairs. So if you have a warrant article out there that says you need to make emergency repairs, then how long do we leave the docks open before these repairs are made?
We can't open the docks. That's how serious it is. So I went
Okay. Now, the warrant article passes, or possibly passes, or not, in March. How long does it take you to get to these repairs? How far do you get into the boating season before you get these repairs
They
done?
will all be done in April.
Okay, thank you. And okay, you want
Well, I just want a clarification on where you mentioned the mount, and you were going to have dredging.
Yes.
Is that into this piece, or one of the three that's here?
That's not.
That's a
emergency.
separate, okay.
That's going to be a part of the permitting, and that could be considered under the repair. For instance, if we decide next year that, hey, we don't want to expand because maybe there's the silent majority comes out and says we don't need to have these docks, which I doubt, but that's a possibility. It does need to get dredged within the next couple of years. So the repairs need to get done, and the dredging should be done, because if we have another low water year, we'd hate to see the mountain not coming in here because it can't land.
I know the plan also is that the mount would come straight in as opposed to the sideways movement. And is that also designed to improve the handling for the crew? Make it easier to get in and out? Yeah.
And that's with the dock expansion. That's not with the
Okay,
dock repair.
okay.
Right.
That's, again, it's another issue. There's the repairs of the current docks,
Yes.
and then the expansion. Why aren't they two separate warrant articles?
Again, I tried to do the best I could.
I understand it's not your, maybe Linda, you could explain?
together and do the repairs. In terms of the capital reserve account, we saw that as, we don't want to bond any more than we have to. And if we can bond for the least amount, that's what we wanted. So we saw that as taking $100,000 of this year and putting it in that account. We didn't say, oh boy, if this fails, I'll go use this. We looked at that as saying, okay, one of the things we've all tried to do is to bond as little as we can and for the least amount of money. And that's where our heads were when we thought about it. You know, I know Bob is not a supporter of the expansion, but there were a bunch of people who were. We met with DES. We met with Rennie Pelletier in talking about what the process was. And I think you could say it's only the business community, but the business community is important to the health of this community. And this is a warrant article. People can say yes or no. And if they say no, then we have to go back to the drawing board. But I think that to do the engineering together, as Dave said, makes sense, and it made sense to the Board of Selectmen.
I guess the consensus I think I'm getting from a lot of the members of the Budget Committee is there probably going to be some, again, correct me if I'm wrong, there's going to be some people feel that this should be a separate warrant article. This shouldn't be part of this. And I don't know what that vote's going to be, if it's going to be 4-4, 5-4, whatever, but I don't think we're going to have a strong consensus as this article is written. So I don't know if you want to reconsider and show more strength under 9-0, or if you want to keep it just the way it is. It's up to you folks, I guess.
I will take that suggestion back to the board.
I don't know how you other folks feel.
You know, I agree with John. My concern is, certainly we want to do those repairs. We have no choice, we have to do it. I think everybody here knows that. But John's point is well taken. If that fails, it's not a matter of go back to the drawing board. It's a matter of you're going to shut down the docks.
Well,
Or do you take that money, which I agree, if the capital reserve passes, to me, you may not want to, but you can use it to do those emergencies.
that's
So if we can do those emergency repairs, if that went down, if we decide to leave it, it would be within the realm of that, and we'd have less money to put aside to help. That's what we're trying to do there, is we're trying to cut down.
Oh, I'm not against it. I don't think John's against it.
So if that went down, you're right, to do it in that manner, but that just
Right.
cuts back on where we wish to be, and that was an
that's my justification for voting against this warrant article. I know that there's going to be money there if the other one passes. If they both don't pass, then we have to punt, but or find money within the operating budget to do an emergency repair. But that's the reason why I asked about the other one, because I have no intention of voting for this one.
And I would agree with Linda, the more that we can put money aside for future spending, that's a great idea. The problem is that we only have a certain amount of things that we can do that for without completely blowing the budget all to pieces. As far as tax increases to our customers, which is the public. So there's got to be a balance between how much we can set aside for and build that up, versus as well as doing the things that have to be done like now.
Steve, the price tag, first of all, there was never a definitive price tag given for the dock expansion. So Luke threw out a number of something like $250,000 to $400,000, I believe, at the public hearing. And I don't know if that's cheap or expensive or whatever, but I believe even with money in a capital reserve fund, I believe this is an issue that's going to have to be bonded. You know, and
And it all goes back to how many years it takes, you know, I mean, and what you're saying is, yeah, there is a limit, and the voters will tell us what that limit is in which they can put in, and fully aware, we have an obligation to put the projects out. I'm more than willing to go back, we have a selectmen's meeting on Wednesday, and
I'm just-
want to bring it back and tell them your points of view and have them listen to that and have them decide.
I would prefer it that way.
Okay, well, let me just, I don't want to be a dictator. Let's just do a vote, and so everyone gets the opportunity to speak. I'll just do a motion that we would ask the selectmen to reconsider the position to separate the repairs to the docks from the engineering to the expansion of the docks. Then the two separate warrant
One and
articles.
two are together and three is separate.
Separate, yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So that would be unanimous then. Okay.
I
Okay,
have
thank you,
some,
Linda. Thank you.
I have something else
Okay, go ahead.
also regarding environmental. I pulled up a study out of New Jersey, Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey, and they forbid any docks to be extended past 50 feet. And actually, what it is, it's a study of, what they did was an inventory of all the docks they had on that lake. The lake is 9 miles long, and it's kind of narrow. And and within that inventory, they also spoke about environmental impact of dock expansion. And it has to do with the poles going into the ground and actually shade being thrown on the shade affects the ecology of plant growth in the lake. And I also wonder about extra boats. I also believe, I don't want to get into the dock extension too much, but I'll send you what I have on that too. But
Mr. Chairman, relative to environmental reviews, the permitting agency is New Hampshire Department of Environmental Protection, or Environmental Services, rather. They're the ones that are going to determine if there's going to be any environmental review or what degree of environmental review is required. They're the ones that have advised the town that what we're proposing looks to be permittable. So I don't know what they do in New Jersey, but in New Hampshire, the state agency that does the permitting is advising the town that what we're proposing to do looks to be permittable.
and they also went against their own rules with that advice. You know, they have a rule for how much frontage you have and how many docks are allowed. And Jim Rhines told us that we're well over that right now.
They also said that there is a rule about public benefit.
Right.
Okay? And as long as your project can demonstrate public benefit, then those other rules don't apply.
Well, I guess the warrant article will decide the public benefit then.
Okay. Anything else on the Dockside Dock? Repairs, expansion, or whatever the title, right now it's just Dockside. Is it Article H?
Article H.
I have a question for you, but I don't want to ask it. Yeah, as I know. I'll have to ask it at another time. Get to a different warrant article, I guess. Okay, public restrooms at Dockside.
Another project that was discussed and was in a potential to be brought up in 2017. So we had a subcommittee of the selectmen to look at the needs and figure out how we could improve the need to bring more public restrooms to the dockside. Towards the end of that committee, Greg Walk came up with an idea which we hadn't fully thought about, which is to expand
Does Dockside have restrooms inside the restaurant itself?
One small.
Is it just for use of the patrons that are inside the? Is these going to be year-round?
These are going to be insulated so that we could open them during winter events, for instance, on first night, but they also could be, they could be shut down.
So are we going to get rid of the porta potties? Will those be gone? Just seems $135,000. You could. Why is that stuff so expensive? Is it just? I can't understand that. That used to be the price of building a house, and this is for.
John, it's frightening how expensive construction costs is getting, and this has complications as you can imagine. We are going to have to remove some of the stamped concrete, the expansion joints that are in the hallway. We're going to do the demolition. We're going to preserve the roof. We're going to insulate underneath. We're going to bring in all the ADA accessibility that's necessary for the bathrooms. And the cost of construction for public restrooms is much higher than we have for standard construction. We're not going to build cheap bathrooms. What we're doing down at the Force Field building, we'll also have some public, we're trying to make these to last, solid, and to be easy to maintain. It's not cheap, and again, probably know that my estimates are normally conservative with contingency. This one also has that. My hope is that if I can get all the pricing in and maybe a town meeting, I might be able to do this. But as we get into the details, everything seems to cost a little more, not less.
Are we going to lose any of that walking space?
No, we're going to preserve all the walking space that's there.
So where is it going to? How is it going to become longer or bigger? Is it going to go out into the parking lot a little bit, or?
Nope, again, as you're approaching from the parking lot side, we have storage with 3 gas containers that help, and that area will become permanent. As you go beyond those, there's some open space that's underneath the kind of canopy.
Right.
We're going to go into that canopy up to the doorway. So we have a good piece there that's open outside space, but not inside space. So that's
Okay.
where the expansion is going to go. Then that will combine and get the walls out and be more efficient design.
You think that'll be done this spring if it passes? That'll get all done this spring before summer, or?
Hello. I keep promising myself not to go out there and go out on a limb and say things like, yes, these bathrooms will be ready for the summer. But I have said that, and that's what's going to happen if it gets approved. And I'll have a lot of gray hairs to prove it.
Will it be like the library? One will always be in operation, and then when the other one's done, it'll move
It
over?
will not be like the library.
No?
It'll be porta-johns until it's fixed.
Oh, that's done, okay.
And it's
Any other
not like
questions?
early in the season, that's what I'm saying, because if we, as you saw this past fall, we try not to do construction down there, and it gets us into trouble. As you see now, we're doing the parking lot, the sewer. We try to do it in the off seasons, not to impact our precious time in the summer.
Any other questions?
Yes, I see, I brought up, when I first saw this diagram, I brought up a suggestion that the visibility be obstructed into each restroom from the other restroom. In other words, if you have let's say you have a man exiting the men's room and the door is open to the ladies' room, the men can actually look in and see 2 stalls. And the same as vice versa, if a woman's coming out of the ladies' room. So in other words, there should be a couple of dividers there, so nobody can look into these stalls. A little privacy divider. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can tell you that we go through circles to get ADA compliance. That's the number one. We want it to be efficient, and I think you brought up a good point, so I'll talk to the architect about that. But again, it's anytime a ladies' room is open and you're looking, you got to turn away. As guys, we just can't look into ladies' rooms. You got to turn your eyes. That's the way it goes. That's
Some of them are designed so you can't see the stalls.
And then we can spend lots of money, but
Okay.
my challenge is to be frugal and Yankee and hopefully be respectful.
What are, just a curiosity, what are some of the ADA constraints that come into play? As far
When
as-
you're in a wheelchair, when you approach a door, you have to have a certain radius. So you'll see one door opens one way, another opens the other way, so that we can have that radiuses, so that someone in a wheelchair will be able to get in and out. So it's all about the wheelchair accessibility, and quite honest with you, we have an architect who specializes in that to make sure it's compliant.
Two more questions I had. When I go into bathrooms in IKEA or some of the more what I would call green companies, we're using the Excel hand dryers, not the little ones that we have down by the train station. Are we going to utilize those? Those are the real high-powered ear dryers. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
I would recommend that we use those.
correct.
The other thing I'm hoping that you're going to do is the urinals and so on. They're now like waterless, that they have in like IKEA and different places. I've seen them, and there's no smell involved, and especially with our water usage that we're concerned about. We looking into those water-saving devices.
We can look at the cost of the low, where I was assuming we're going to have low water, but not the zero water. So I can look at that. I'm not aware of those.
Especially now when we're putting them in. I mean,
Now's the time, absolutely.
now's the time. I mean, because the savings down the road could be extensive for water usage. Water and sewer, correct.
Any other questions? No. Okay, David, can we go on to effluent disposal study?
My favorite subject. So the effluent disposal project has been an ongoing since I arrived here in 2006. We were well on our way in a design of the rapid infiltration basin project. As we are all aware, that was designed, built, and constructed and went online in 2009. Within a month, we had problems, and those problems were, we worked with the engineer for many years. They would not take responsibility for the design errors. We sued, and we won. We had $7.5 million verdict. We spent almost $2 million on lawyers and experts. But that money is now, has been used for the last few years in terms of looking at the problem again, looking at all aspects, dealing with the effluent disposal, as well as our I&I problem, our infiltration and inflow problem. The clean groundwater that gets into our sewer system means more water we have to dispose of. So the state and the town agreed on an administrative order by consent, and they gave us many tasks. All those have been completed. The final report is, I'll be meeting with the engineers on Friday, and that'll be delivered to the state on time at the end of this month. The report is basically going to state that we've looked at many options, and the one that's the best option is to repair the rapid infiltration basin site. We have done 2 years of piloting to come up with a solution that is permittable, and we have built one unit that's now discharging about 62 gallons a minute into 19 Mile Brook, and we've had the state out there. They're very impressed. We were able to restore all the wetlands, so you wouldn't even know what's happening, and we're very confident that this next phase, and again, when we sit down with the state, we have a 2018 will be our design and permitting of the solution, and then we'll be looking at construction in 19 and 20. So what we're looking at in 2018 is $300,000 for this final design and permitting, and I've put in $100,000 for certain continuation of our piloting and stabilization of certain areas that have been disrupted because of the breakouts. We've also are considering doing some detailed environmental studies with regards to the pollutants, and that's something that's also in this budget, but would not be expended until we are sure that the design and the construction costs can all be funded by the money that's in the bank. So again, this one, we like to say this doesn't cost the taxpayers any money. Well, the taxpayers are already paying for this, because we already had bonded this, we're paying for those bonds, but we now get that money back to do it properly, and again, we're confident that this is the next step in that area.
You think there'll be money that's left over from the suit? Will that be enough to cover the final solution to the problem?
Yes, right now, our estimates are about $2.6 million for the construction upgrade, in addition to $400,000 for construction engineering. So we're looking at about $3 million. And that is money that, so looking forward, the money that we're looking at appropriating this year, the money we've already spent, would all be under the money that we have there in the bank. And hopefully, there'll be less than that.
The new solution, is that going to use any of the current stuff that's there, or does all that get torn up and you start fresh?
No, that's one of the things. We will continue to use the rapid infiltration basins, and that's where the water goes into the ground. That's at the top of the esker where we have the nice sands.
Okay.
So that gives us that tertiary treatment where it removes the phosphorus, and that'll maintain, all those beds will maintain. As it travels down and hits the ledge, which is about 50 feet below the bottom of the beds, then starts heading downwards to the 19 Mile Brook, that's where, when it hits the wetland soils, is when it starts to break out. That's where the problem is, and that's where the solution will begin. We'll design a way to collect that groundwater before it breaks out. We'll stop the deterioration of the wetlands. We'll then move it closer to the brook, and then we'll put it back in the ground with an engineered, a natural solution that will have 5 points that will then be able to get it back into the brook, but into the ground, so it'll be legal under the groundwater permit.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
$500,000 during 2018, is that correct?
It could be less than that, but that would be the maximum.
Okay.
And we'll work with you as we've done before with regards to when you might want to take that out, because obviously we won't start the engineering until we have the authorization in March.
Okay.
And then it'll be over those periods, so.
But no real construction in 2018?
The only construction we'll do, and that's because we've been working with the state, would be on the stabilization and potentially expansion of the pilot testing.
And that'll be within the 500,000?
That's within the 500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sewer rehabilitation.
Good.
So this goes along with, we separated this project because its funding source is the same amount of money. Again, how do we tie sewer rehabilitation with the effluent disposal? If we can stop the clean water, the groundwater from getting into our sewer system, that's less we have to pump, treat, and dispose of. So the state, in this administrative order, has required us to continue to work on this. This $50,000 would be for the next phase, putting together a design for the next phase of construction, which we anticipate would be in the following years. And this is an ongoing project that we've been working on for over a dozen years, and we have been successful in reducing our total wastewater volumes. In 2005, we were up as much as 144 million gallons for the year. Last year, we were down to about 90 million gallons. This year, with the higher rainfalls, we're up. And I attribute that some to the areas we haven't fixed, but we had done a temporary repair down at the dockside. That repair did not hold. This fall, we did the permanent repair, and that was successful. So I think that's going to be a big win for us there. And then this money is for the design of the next major improvements to help, again, continue to reduce the amount of water we have to pump, treat, and dispose of. And this is also no impact on the rates, because it's money that we're using from the...
Yeah. Dave, did you just say that you buttoned up that leak down at Dockside?
Yes.
That's all, there's no problem with that anymore?
Not anymore. No, that was, we had done a temporary repair, and that helped us last year. Then this year, I think it let loose, so we got more water. Plus, we had more rain this year.
Right, and just another housekeeping thing, the project request says $400,000.
Correct. That had construction, and then when we talked to the selectmen, they said, let's only do the engineering this year, so that's an old sheet. Sorry, I need to update that.
Any other questions? Okay, next article is replace water treatment plant control panels.
My favorite building is our water treatment plant. It's, if you've been up there, it looks brand new, but it's coming on 20 years old. We're very proud of it. The operators, led by our chief operator, Janine Gillum, and Scott Pike, have done an excellent job. When we did our asset management plan, we looked at everything within the plant and looked at its useful life. And then we developed a schedule. Well, the first thing that jumped out at us with this project, which is the need to replace the controls and electronics that are no longer supported. In certain aspects, like a water pipe, we're still using the same water pipe that we did 50 years ago. But when it comes to electronics and controls, it seems every 10 years they go out of date. We've been taking good care of them. We have spares. Now it's time to replace these. So this was identified in the asset management plan, and it's a project that we've already started planning for. And this is money that's that we want. It's already within our unfunded, what do they call it, the balance of our water fund.
As an aside, David, on a much smaller scale, I had the same problem with my sewer pump control panel. Controllers in there, they don't make them anymore.
Right.
And then they tell you that, well, you can use this one, totally different wiring diagram. Mel Hazelton is crazy trying to figure out what to do. So I know what you're talking about.
I have a question on your submittal. It says impact on operating costs, that it's going to decrease the operating costs. What do you estimate that would be?
That's always, what we call in the engineering field, a WAG. I hard to put a specific number on it. We won't have to replace the parts. Right now, we're at risk of if that breaks down, then we got to scramble to work around it. So the cost is in the unexpected area. So we know emergency repairs, things like that. So again, it's just the longer a piece of equipment, the older it gets, the more maintenance it needs. So by replacing these, we're hopeful that within the next 10 years they'll be maintenance free.
Okay, it's a little after 8:30, and we've still got probably half the warrant articles to go over. I know we've got this scheduled for tomorrow night also, Leanne? So do you gentlemen mind if we move on to these tomorrow night?
Not at all.
Are you going to be available tomorrow night?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we'll go off the warrant articles. I just want to go back to our agencies, and I wanted to make a motion concerning White Horse Addiction Center. I'd like to make a motion to reduce that to 0.
White Horse.
Get a second on it?
Not yet.
Second.
I guess second. You heard most of the questions that were asked, and I guess one of my concerns is they got $75,000 from the county last year. They've asked for $100,000, and I think what bothers me also is that they've only asked us, Tuftonboro, and Wakefield, and there's many other communities in Carroll County that use that service. You've got Multiboro's a good size, Conway's a good size, Ossaby's a good size, and I just feel that we've kind of been picked as we make these funds available to them. Again, my main concern is that we're paying once, why should we pay twice for the service?
My concern is that I don't see a continuation in results here, in their program. And I don't think they're set up to have a beginning and end successful in their program, or rehabilitation or whatever.
Right.
And I talked to Amy Muncio on this before, and I feel somewhat like that in the one that was just added, the children's program. Amy was very, very strongly of the mind that the county has to take hold of something here. They haven't done it.
Yeah, they've just given them $75,000. Now they're asking for $100,000.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
So you want to just zero that out?
Yes, sir.
I think they do a good job. As much as I like to cut the budget wherever I can, I mean, if we wanted to do it like to 1,000 or something like that, just as a goodwill kind of thing, say we want to pay a participant.
As I said, I think that we pay enough by contribution of $75,000 by the county and $100,000 this year that they're going to ask for. And that's a pretty good chunk of change. I would say that would probably be one of the highest donations that the county makes to any organization.
It's a big one.
I think the Child Advocacy Center, which is a prime example, a great program and do great work, I think they get $40,000, but they don't come around and ask each town to contribute, like these folks do. Well, they just pick the towns they want to contribute. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about the program or anything else. I'm just the principle that paying once, I don't think we should have to pay again. Anybody else got any comments?
One thing I'm concerned about is the level of the opioid crisis that is ongoing, and Carroll County is one of the highest around. I think it would be poorly timed for us not to be willing to participate in a program that is dealing with that. So I would feel the other way.
My second concern is the relationship between that program that they provide and church, that it's promoting some type of church, which I think it should be separate from anything the government pays for.
I think I was also concerned about that. I knew that they were a faith-based organization. I think she answered your question properly.
And I think what is wrong with the faith-based thing anyway? I mean, look at AA and some of those other things. It's of higher power. So
Right, but they're not funded.
I think she answered the question correctly. You're not pushing anything.
They're not funded by a government
And I think
agency,
there's nothing
Steve.
wrong with, if someone coming in there is seeking that, if they're offering that, yes. But if someone's not coming in seeking that, then they're not offering that.
Right, but AA is not funded by a government, by a state or a state agency. We're giving them money no matter if it's for a new refrigerator, a new bathroom, whatever. That's still funding to that particular belief or faith or whatever. It's not Catholic charities. They don't come and ask money from us. It's a faith-based thing. And again, that's for you guys to choose. I'm just voicing my own opinion and my own thoughts. But okay, any more discussions? Okay, seeing none, the motion is, I think this is going to have to be a hand vote, is to reduce White Horse addiction by $2,500 to zero. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? Motion passes. And I have nothing against the program, gentlemen. I have nothing against the program.
Well, I'm concerned. I think it's short term for anybody. That doesn't cut the mustard.
There's only one other program around, and that's Green Mountain. That costs $15,000 a month next Friday.
Yeah, I don't know what they charge.
I do know.
I mean, to go up
Because I'm with Carroll County Public Health.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. That's why I was speaking out in the manner I did.
Okay. Anything further?
We doing full budget?
Please. How about the minutes?
Default budget is just based on.
It's your gentleman's call. If you want to do it, we can do it tomorrow night.
All I can say is it looks good to me.
Okay, we'll do it tomorrow night then. What else do we have? We have West of the warrant articles.
Meeting agencies.
Yeah, that's 4, 3 or 4.
16 coming back for the 100 wages, the pages.
Yeah.
Plus her warrant article, plus all the other warrant articles, then the estimated revenue, the default budget, and all the stuff that needs to do.
And then we've got a couple of open dates after Christmas.
You have not scheduled.
Okay.
And it's before Christmas, I believe.
The consensus I'm getting from the gentleman over on this side of the table, would like to call it a night, I think. We'll go out tomorrow and finish up agencies, finish up warrant articles, and default budget minutes and estimated revenues tomorrow night, Thursday night. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. 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 Thank you, everyone.